Okay, hello, welcome back to another video. Today playing e4, of course. Now, what are we going to see from my opponent? They're Scandinavian. Okay, I'm going to play d4 here and play a Blackmar Dima gambit just because I don't want to play what they're expecting me to play. Let's now go knight to c3, attack this pawn. The d pawn is of course defended, and then here the key move f3. Now, it's not quite f6, but I'm sure Benjamin Feingold is still rolling in his grave somewhere. However, after they take, the main move in the Black Mardima is to play knight takes on f3. Then, as you can see, we're 2 pawns down now. If we recapture this one, we'll only be 1 pawn down. We'll have a nice pawn in the center, 2 developed knights, open lines for the bishops, and that makes sense as a playable gambit. What you shouldn't do is recapture with queen, which is exactly what I'm going to do, called the Rider Gambit, giving up yet another pawn, blocking the natural developing square for the knight, getting your queen out early, but now, bishop e3. And there's some super interesting lines. The queen barely has anywhere to move here, actually. One of the most common moves being here, but the other one being to go over to g4. Now, we are 2 pawns down, but if I castle queenside here, you'd expect me to know some theory because I've just played this, but honestly, right now, I'm kind of got no clue. Queen g4, queen g4, queenside castles, takes. They're going to play c6 because then that just prevents any idea of knight b5. I could also keep the queens on the board. You know what? I don't think it's the best move, but I'm going to do it regardless. Queen to f2, stepping back, just so I keep the queens on the board. Because I think if I exchange the queens, I mean, yes, I've got loads and loads of quick development, and my king's safe, and I've got a rook on the open file, and black's barely moved any of their pieces, but it's going to start tending towards an endgame, the more pieces that get traded off. And an endgame with black up 2 pawns, however active my pieces are, it's going to be extremely hard to create a lot out of that. So, just practically speaking, knowing my own personal style, my own attacking chess preferences, I'm going to keep the queens on the board, and I'm now going to play bishop e2, hit the queen, develop the second bishop with tempo on the queen. Remember, the first one came into play after the queen took on d4, and we made that move. Now I can play rook to d1 here, now that the queen's moved, and it's going to have to move again. And it's going to have to like come out of the d5. It's got very finite moves. I guess queen here, but then maybe knight f3. Right, you know what? 100%. Rook d1. We are developing all of our pieces. Queen comes to here. That is an ugly move. That is a very ugly move. I can play. I feel like I should be going knight f3 and castling kingside, which just looks outstandingly developed and super aggressive. But you know what? Knight b5 already is giving me a lot of hope, actually. Because what do you do about knight b5? I'm threatening to family fork the king, the queen, and the rook. Not only is it that, but it's a threat of checkmate because the rook holds here. As well as the fact that this knight is no longer, let me use a different colour here, no longer in its home square, so knight to a6, defending here is not a resource. The dark square bishop cannot move, because black spent all their time picking up the pawns. How about that? How about that? If knight goes here to try and defend this backwards, I play rook takes knight. Because after queen recaptures, oh no, I've lost the exchange. But then this square is yet again undefended, and I will pick up. Oh. Resignation? Not quite resignation. Okay, I can't bring myself to do this to another person. They might have a family. I'm very sorry. I don't even know what to say. Let's look at the analysis. Okay, so here we are in the evaluation. And now, as you can see from all of this red, this blue, this yellow annotation here, Stockfish isn't the biggest fan of what just happened. I mean, they don't really rate me as a chess player at the moment. Me, on the other hand, I just got a 12-move checkmate with a knight against a 2180 rated player. So your choice as to whether you heed Stockfish's warning and play solid positional Karpovian chess, or I'm just putting this out there, play like an absolute nutcase and win the game super quick. I mean, it's an option for you to weigh up. Anyway, let's go through the game. So e4, of course, not d4 ever. e5, the Scandinavian. Now this is absolutely sound at any level that's not master, really. There are some, I've heard saying, oh, the Scandinavian's not a sound opening. Bro, you're not Magnus Carlsen, you're not a super grandmaster. You're not going to punish this very, very well. So my opponent essays the Scandinavian, to which I say, you know what? d4, blunder, move 2. How do you like them apples, proverbially speaking? Now, d4, Stockfish treats as a blunder. Chess.com would say this is a book move. It is, you lose like a 1.7, it goes from 0.8 to, minus 0.9. You use 1.7 pawns, basically, worth of positional advantage by playing this move, because after takes, knight c3, the knight defends, f3, the best move, and takes, we're still in about the same position, minus 0.9. You're going to take back with the knight, you're going to defend the pawn, everything's going to be okay. You've definitely got some ideas of counterplay for the price of that pawn. Stockfish doesn't completely hate you. However, if you now play queen takes f3, an inaccuracy by Stockfish's standards, -2 now. Position is as good as being 2 pawns down, basically. Because after, obviously, queen takes, you have left this pawn here on d4 without a guard. Queen takes pawn comes, all of a sudden this eval's creeping up. However, counterplay, bishop to e3, the queen's going to move, and we're just going to step back. Then the knight comes out, and here, funnily enough, I should have played h3. I'm going to turn on the engine, actually. h3, we'll go through some moves here. And if queen to b4, I castled queenside. Okay, I know that because I knew if initially queen before I castled queenside. What if the queen just goes back to like g6? Then I guess I got bishop d3. Okay, so maybe understanding that h3 actually forced the queen to either like back onto the d file, somewhere uncomfortable in front of a pawn, or if we see h3, queen f5, knight f3, my bishop's going to be able to come to d3 where it's more active, I guess. And if you can't take this pawn because my queen, of course, protects. So yeah, I guess this bishop's definitely more active on d3 than it is on e2, but I saw the immediate idea to just go bishop e2, which Stockfish does not like. However, this is the first time I might agree and say I should have played h3. However, queen moves all the way back to d7, and the queen's out, it's running around. I'm going to attack it again, bring the rook in, best move. Let's turn the engine off here. I want to see all these lines. Attacking the queen. Now, black's best move is to attack my queen, and after like rook, well actually no, engine back on, I want to look at this line. Knight here. If I take the queen, am I just losing? Here, I bring this back, and then they take my rook, and then the knight's probably trapped, but I've got loads of counterplay here. Okay, what's the best line? If I just go queen g3, the queen comes here, and I guess we're putting pressure on this again because the queen has to protect the knight. Okay, I guess the bishop protects the knight. This is all very sharp. I'm not surprised my opponent didn't go for this. Rook to d1, they're of course just going to move the queen. However, I then spotted the absolutely beautiful move that is just begging to be played, really, when you've got the queen here, the king here, the rook here, just no defense of the b5 square, knight to b5, of course. And yeah, this game could have gone on much longer, but I literally called it out, I believe, before I even made the move. Knight to d5, and let's just see that. Best move, taking the knight there, because if queen takes, as I said, then knight check, king moves, and we reclaim this queen. Up 6 points of material, huge lead in development as well. Probably can just play like knight f3, castle, kingside just to complete that. This king's dislodged. Terrible position for black. However, my opponent tried to kick my knight and made, I don't really know why they did that. I think probably They made this move not seeing that I could take it with the rook, which is missable. But honestly, there wasn't much more of a resilient defense. I mean, we'll look at some of those in a second, but they probably just sort of rage quit after that, played a6, not thinking about it, and let me deliver that checkmate. But okay, after knight b5, if we saw, okay, so the best move is to give up the queen, which is obviously very hard to play. Let's see, what about queen e5? Then knight f3, and the best move is to sacrifice the queen for the knight. This queen just has nowhere to go to hold on to this, because we just control so many squares. So many squares on the board with all our pieces. Yeah, the game was just lost after knight b5. Okay, I'm just going to leave this checkmate on the board as I outro this video. Thank you very much for watching. A bit of a shorter one, bit of a snappier game, and obviously my opponent made a couple mistakes there. Bit of a scrappier game, less solid. However, hopefully very enjoyable. I think quite a lot of you enjoy games that end like this a little bit more than some of the others. However, I don't know, so tell me in the comments. Let me know your opinions on what you want to see next, because you know, I do not have a very large fan base, and so that means that I will probably listen to you if you comment and tell me what videos to make, because yeah, I'm looking for a lot of feedback. I'm trying to grow the channel. Anything you guys want to see, I will try and look at making. Like, comment, subscribe if you're new. I'd really appreciate it, trying to grow the channel. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.